Shabba, hello everybody and welcome to That's Football. It is the international break, but it doesn't have to be depressing. Who is the best Premier League midfielder? Who is the best Premier League midfielder of all time? This is going to generate a lot of comments, so get in the comments, have your say. The reality is, when I think of a football match, midfield is where you want to be. It's the focal point, it's the centre, and games are won and lost in the midfield. It's the biggest cliche, but it's the biggest truth. If you don't get hold of the midfield, you will not win a game of football. Facts. So over the Premier League current period, over the Premier League's last 20 odd years, who are and who is the best Premier League player of all time and currently? And let's go currently, because I think the all-time one is going to break the internet, but currently, for me, the best midfielder in the Premier League, there are a number of candidates. And I just want to say, as a Manchester United fan, there will be people who say Paul Pogba, and I totally agree that in the current climate, Paul Pogba is one of the best players in the world, potentially. And potentially, consistency, I think, are very important when you want to be the best. Potential, inconsistent, they ain't words associated with the best. So I'm sorry, Paul Pogba's not in that. He could be, definitely. On his day, I think he's better than anybody, but he is not consistent and he has not fulfilled his talent that he has. So for me, Pogba is out. As a United fan, I'd love to him. He's in the conversation, but he's out very, very quickly. You're looking for consistency, and that especially in the midfield, you know, you can't play fantastic against Man City and then rubbish against West Brom, and he's done that too many times. So Pogba's out. For me, there are a number of candidates. I don't think any Liverpool player gets in. I'm sorry, I don't think any Liverpool player gets in. And I'll tell you for what. Well, actually, what I'm doing. First of all, I'm just going to show you this as well before we go on to that. Just listen to this. This is interesting.
James Milner is the most underrated English player in the last 15 to 20 years.
Get in the link in the video description. Is James Milner the best midfielder England have got? I mean, that's Rants. Me and Rants are good mates. I totally disagree. I'm in the comments. Go and check it out. Link in the video description. All I would say is most underrated player in the last 15 to 20 years, Michael Carrick. But he's definitely not the best England midfielder now. Check that video out. I'm in the comments. Go over there and see if you agree with me. Rants, we don't agree on everything. You know, if you're saying, if he's saying Milner's look, I'll go and check it out. Links in the video description. But bringing it back to this, best current Premier League midfielder, James Milner, Henderson, Wijnaldum, very effective for Liverpool, but there's no midfielder in the Liverpool midfield that is going to get into the best midfielder in the Premier League at the moment conversation, I'm afraid. There are two clear candidates for me. Kante at Chelsea, who I've been a big fan of for years. I just love his tenacity. I love his energy. I think he's an underrated footballer as well. He wins the ball back. He can carry the football. He can score a goal. He can dribble. But basic is not the word you put with Kante, but basically he is a CDM. That's what you want. If I tell you what, you would get the best out of Paul Pogba every game in the Premier League if he had someone like that next to him instead of static Matic or learning McTominay. Kante, just stick him in that CDM role. Let him do what he does. Busy, break up the play, give the ball away, give the ball to the opposition, not the opposition, to his best player. I'm not talking Kante up. Gives the ball away and basic, but you know what I mean. Kante for me is absolutely fantastic, and he is in the conversation. And then I would put Kevin De Bruyne in there. I think personally it's between Kante and De Bruyne. I know Arsenal fans will start saying Xhaka or somebody stupid. No, they won't. They might mention Guendouzi. He's way too young. He is way too young. He has the potential. I really do like him, but he's not in that conversation. Spurs, way too inconsistent. Chelsea, not really, not yet. Well, you've got Kante in there. What am I talking about? Who else is in the top six? Yeah, we spoke about United. Anybody outside the top six? No, not really. It's Kante and it's De Bruyne, and you make your choice on that. So get in the comments below. But for me, I would go with... See, if I was Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Manchester United manager, and I could take one of those players, I would take Kante every day of the week and Sunday because we need that CDM. But if I was in a team like Man City, I'd take De Bruyne, obviously, because he plays... I'm not having a good day today. If I was in a team like City, I would take De Bruyne. Yeah, well, you've already got him, mate. All right, okay. If I was in a team like Liverpool, I would take De Bruyne because I don't think Liverpool need Kante more than they need De Bruyne. So it depends what your needs are. But looking at it, forgetting your club loyalties, what your club needs, who would I take, Kante or De Bruyne? I think you've got to go with the player that is going to win you games of football. And I'm going to surprise people here because you're going to think I'm going to say De Bruyne. But I'm not going to say De Bruyne because, yeah, De Bruyne does win you games of football, but games are won in the midfield in a very, very different way. Games are won in the midfield with that ability to win the ball back, with that ability to provide a platform for your team to attack. You know, I've played some games recently with the United stand, and we've got a good defence, we've got a good attack, but the midfield, for various reasons, has broken down. And when it breaks down, it doesn't matter how good your defence is. If you keep knocking on the door, they'll eventually get through that defence. And it doesn't, especially if you've got runners from the midfield, and it doesn't matter how good your attack is. If you don't get the ball to them, you look at United at times, they've had good attacks, but they've been neglected. So the midfield, you've got to have somebody who can run that midfield. And for me, I go with Kante still. I've always liked Kante, and I'd go with Kante over De Bruyne, which some people might say is controversial, but I would go with Kante over De Bruyne. And it's close. It's very, very close. I'd like them both in the same midfield. I think that would be a brilliant midfield. But I would go with Kante because I don't think you can underestimate or praise enough a player like that who you just drop in that CDM role and basically they'll run that midfield and provide that shield to the defence and that platform for, like, I mean, De Bruyne, if De Bruyne played in Manchester United's team, would he do anything at the moment? No, because you still haven't got that Kante type midfielder to provide the platform. So De Bruyne is good in the right sort of team. Is De Bruyne, but Kante is going to be good in any team, and I think that's the best explanation I could give you. Kante will be good in any team because the role he plays, it doesn't matter what team he's in, it doesn't matter whether he's playing for Stoke or Barcelona, he will still make an impact because of the type of player he is. De Bruyne, if he's playing for Stoke, he ain't making an impact. If he's playing for Barcelona, of course he is, but Kante is the player you drop into any team and he improves it. So that's why Kante gets my vote. With regard to the best Premier League midfielder ever, this is where it gets interesting. Look, there's plenty of names I can chuck out here. Certainly, I think people always go Scholes, Lampard, Gerrard. But actually, I could say Roy Keane, Toure, Vieira. You know, it's not just... I think people think the Lampard, Scholes, Gerrard debate means that they're best ever Premier League midfielder. And maybe they are. We'll talk about that in a minute. But actually, are they better than Vieira, Toure and Keane? You know... And there are other people. There's David Silva. I mean, Fabregas did well for a while as well. So this is an interesting debate. And for me, what I would do is probably rank it in my top 5. And there are plenty of people that sort of fall into that category. But I don't think off the top... Well, I have thought about it. I think, to be honest with you, I'm just trying to think who's... Well, I know who number 1 is. I know who number 3 is. I tell you, I know who number 2 is. I know number 4 is. Number 5, yes, yeah. So number 5, I would put Yaya Toure. At times he was unplayable. For 2 years for Manchester City he was unplayable, and I remember that because United was sort of chasing them for the titles, and he was just unplayable, absolutely unplayable. He was winning them games. He was a fantastic player for 2 years, but the longevity wasn't there with Toure. And also he wasn't as impactful for Barcelona as he was for Man City. Had a really good 2 years at Man City where I felt he was probably one of the best midfielders in the world. Hence, he's got to be in the debate, but for me, he's not the best that's been in the Premier League, and he's not even in the top 4. So he comes in at number 5. And number 4, Frank Lampard. Chelsea fans are going to cry about this, but at the end of the day, there is some really big competition here. And with regards to Frank Lampard, very, very good goal scorer. Never really did it for England, but that doesn't matter. We're talking about best ever Premier League midfielder. He's got to be in the top 5 because, also the thing about Lampard is he had a good engine, he would put a tackle in, and he wasn't just about scoring goals. But the 3 players I'm going to name above him, I would comfortably take every day of the week over Lampard. So, I'm not dismissing Lampard. He's in the top 5, but I prefer these players more. Number 3, Patrick Vieira. Again, massively fundamental in that Arsenal team that was very successful. Sort of... I don't know. I mean, when I look at Vieira, and Arsenal fans might be different with this, but I just felt with Vieira that his career wandered a little bit. And obviously he wandered away from Arsenal at a key time when, I don't think he should have done. But also, there were times through his Arsenal career where, he was brilliant, but there was times where he went missing a bit. And I remember that, especially in games against United, he would have a great game, and then again you'd see him and he'd have a very quiet game. So I felt Vieira was good, but was he consistently good enough to get him into the top sort of 2? Not for me, but 3 is very good. We're talking top 5 Premier League midfielder ever, so I'd put him in at number 3. Number 2 is joint. I'm going to go with Steven Gerrard, and I'm going to go with Paul Scholes. Now this is going to upset a lot of people, but Scholes was consistently superb. And I don't know whether people who don't watch Manchester United week in, week out knew how good Scholes was. He was brilliant, absolutely superb. People said he couldn't tackle, he could. He just knew that if he had the excuse that he couldn't tackle, he'd always get away with reds and get yellows instead. Very tenacious himself, very creative, very, very, very good at scoring goals, but also the ball delivery. And in his latter career, the way he went deeper and just ran the midfield as well sort of gets understated, because when he first burst on the scene, he was more of a sort of number 10 really, hitting that box, scoring goals. And throughout his career, he sort of dropped further and further back. And throughout that transition, he got better and better. But much the same with Gerrard. Gerrard in his earlier career was all action, box to box, goals, the lot. And then towards the end, as the legs went, he still got lots of goals, penalties, etc. But he went deeper and deeper. So for me, I can't split the two. Liverpool fans are going to say you're an idiot. It's definitely Gerrard. United fans are going to say you don't know how good Scholes was. Neutrals can say what they like. I've put them both at 2. I'm not going to split them. I think they're the same. And then my number 1 will cause controversy, but I will argue it with anybody. The best ever Premier League midfielder is the best ever Premier League captain, and that's Roy Keane. Now, people will say, you don't know what you're on about. I guarantee most of you were still in your mum's chuff when this came out, by the way. Anyway, did you watch Roy Keane from 1992 to when he retired from Premier League football in 2006? Because he didn't just play for Manchester United. He had a season at Forest. They got relegated, but he was probably player of the year in the Premier League that year. Forest got relegated. They were shit, but he was playing centre-back at God knows what age. Fantastic player, went to Manchester United and evolved into a world-class player. But people always think of Roy Keane as this holding midfielder who had back and hip problems. He wasn't. He was all action. He got a lot of goals for United in his early days. He could play in numerous positions, tenacious, would fight anybody to his last breath, and was absolutely, without question, the best leader the Premier League has ever had. And to do that in that midfield role, if you play in a team and it's quiet, like Manchester United now, that will cost you points through a season. If you're not a very good team, but you've got a leader who is vocal in the middle of the pitch like we had with Roy Keane, he will give you 10, 20 points a season just for that. Roy Keane, very, very good midfielder, very underrated midfielder, passing very good, could score goals, had a brilliant engine, could tackle better than anybody. He had the lot. And I think people get elitist and go, well, he didn't score as many goals as Lampard or Gerrard or De Bruyne. But that's not what it's all about. Look at why I chose Kante. Leadership, organisation, and winning the midfield battle, which is where we started. If you win that midfield battle, you win games of football, and Roy Keane was the best at it. And if you're asking me what one midfielder I would take from any Premier League period right now for Manchester United, it would be Roy Keane over Kante. That's how much I rate him, and I rate Kante. So that, for me, is why Roy Keane is the best ever Premier League midfielder. You're going to have different thoughts, but you won't change mine. You're going to tell me I'm wrong, but you won't change my mind, because that's what it's all about. It's about opinion. But what might change your mind as we play it again is Milner. He's England's best midfielder, says Rance. Check that link in the video description. I'm about to go and leave my comments there now. I totally disagree, but do you agree with my comments? Get in the comments here and then get over there as well. Thanks for watching. Smash a like and make sure you subscribe.